Just like many of you, this was me a couple of years ago. As you can see, I go to the barbers, I get a fresh haircut, and I feel so good. I even take a second look. I go home and I admire the barber's work. Look how good I look. But then a couple of days later, and I wake up and I feel the back of my head, and oh no, all I can feel is a spot right there. So I rush to the mirror and this is what I see.
Oh, hell no, man. What, man? Get your ass on, boy. Get your guy.
Acne, keloidalis, nuchae. Or on Twitter, people just call it Nestle Crunch.
That's what I love, Nestle Crunch.
So before we move on further, we need to actually understand what AKN is and why after going to a barber's your head looks like the surface of Mars. So what causes AKN? Well, nobody actually knows, not even the doctors know. It is very much speculated that it is caused by irritation and it is caused by having a small injury, which can be caused by having really short haircut using a razor, and then it introduces bumps and ingrown hairs, which then turn into eventually AKN. But there is no unanimous verdict on why this is caused in the first place. And there's many reasons why. I also think there's not enough like clinical tests and trials or whatever, especially on black people or people who get these things, to have a unanimous verdict on why this happens in the first place. AKN also usually affects younger people, so from 14 to 25 to 26. And when you get a little bit older, your risks of getting it reduce massively. There are other symptoms that look very similar to AKN, such as dermatitis, folliculitis, even keloids, because AKN can look very keloid-like. That's why I'm guessing the keloid in AKN, do you know what I mean? But it can look very, very similar, but they're not the same thing. But essentially, if you have AKN, that is basically the final boss level of having hair infections from a barber. So let's take a deeper dive and look into why I think AKN genuinely comes from the barbers. I know I just said the doctors don't know where this infection really comes from, but I have my own theory. So I got AKN back in 2016 after I went to a barber's, a dirty barbers. Since starting this channel and sharing my story, I've had so many emails from literally hundreds of people across my YouTube and across my TikTok that tell me that their AKN also stems from the barbershop. I'm not going to show information about this person, but they messaged me today. I will get back to you on that email, but they also said that they got AKN from switching barbers. I know correlation does not equal causation, but in my opinion, there's too many cases that I've personally seen of people going to really bad barbers with really low levels of hygiene and then getting AKN. Quick pause. If you suffer from barber bumps, you probably do if you're watching this video, then barberbumps.com has the best solution and products to treat your bumps. They offer things such as oils, creams, antiseptic, soaps, and they put this all into one kit just for you, and they will send it out to you from anywhere in the world, so then you're able to start your treatment of your bumps. Bumps are very difficult to get rid of, and I genuinely think this is the best kit that you can use to treat your bumps. Now, back to the video.
This is what happens when you go to a nasty ass barber that doesn't clean their clippers.
All it takes is one time to let somebody in their dirty clippers in the back of your head. Look at the back of my neck. Like I got herpes and monkey. Let me not say that, but make sure the people that's cutting your hair clean their clippers.
The reason why clips like this shouldn't exist is because unlike the UK, the US genuinely does have some sort of regulation around barbershops and hairdressers. So in theory, there should never be a case where you go to a barber's and you're the next person to go up and the barber hasn't sterilized or disinfected the clippers, combs, or any tools that they're going to be using. And even in the UK, even though there isn't a regulating body around hairdressers and barbershops, this still shouldn't be happening because the hygiene should be good anyway. But in reality, that's not really going to happen, is it? Because you're always going to be at the mercy of the barbershop that you go to. So if they decide to clean the clippers and they have good hygiene, you will never know until you get some rashes.
Excuse me. Hey, it's Kunta Kinte!
So at this point, going to a new black barber's is basically a massive roll of the dice, because if you do go there and they do have bad hygiene, then what do you get? An infection. And what can that lead to? AKN. And how long does AKN last? indefinitely. Thinking about some of my own personal experiences in barbershops is actually shocking. There was a time where I was literally watching a guy right in front of me get his haircut. The barber was using a straight razor and then he was using these clippers. And then I remember seeing like the back of his head bleeding a little bit. And then the barber gets a towel, pats him dry, uses his clippers again, and then calls the next person to get their haircut, and he hasn't disinfected anything, he hasn't changed his clippers. Just insane. That's why when I go onto my YouTube and I go onto Reddit and I search for this condition and I see so many people who are lost and so many people who have been to barbers and got infections, it actually bothers me so much. That experience that I just talked about can be completely avoided just by barbers stepping up and improving their hygiene and actually caring about the next person who's coming up to get their haircut and how that's going to impact them, because this is something that impacts people for the next 4 to 5. I've seen some people even have it for 15 years. So just those small things that barbers can do to make this change is going to help massively. Okay, now we know that going to barbers can cause infections that can potentially stay with you for 15 years. What can you do? The first thing that I would recommend to you right now is that you go to the mirror and you do check the back of your head and see if you've got any spots that have been there for a while, because you might have AKN or might be at the early stages of having AKN and you don't even know. So the earlier that you tackle this issue, the easier it will be to actually treat it in general, because there is a mad progression that could happen and you want to tackle it at a very early stage. Something that I do recommend to everyone is to learn how to cut their own hair. I started to do it after I got my first outbreak of AKN years ago, and it's the best decision I ever made because it worked for me. I was moving around a lot at the time, so it made a lot of sense for me not to risk it with another barber and get another infection and make my whole situation worse. Don't get me wrong, there are people like Thomas from Barber Style Directory who make excellent videos on hygiene and how to just basically have a great business as a barbershop, but standards like these seem very few and far between and don't really exist that much outside of YouTube, in my opinion. With YouTube barbers, a lot of their business is there for the world to see, but unlike them, just a regular business or a regular barbershop that you're going to go to, their business isn't in front of the whole world, so they're not open to the amount of scrutiny that would come for having bad hygiene practices. With all that being said, I'm genuinely not trying to demonize barbers with this video. All I'm trying to say is that the standards of hygiene needs to go up massively, just for the regular customer. Because when you watch YouTube videos, you're watching 360 Jeezy, you're watching all these great YouTubers and great barbers online, that isn't the same type of level of care and quality that you get just at your regular barbershop. And this affects people massively. When a regular trips to the barbers can go from a little rash to something that looks like this, then I genuinely think we have a huge problem here. And when your head gets to a stage like this, it's not something that you can just get rid of. This is basically at a level where you have to get surgery. And when your scalp gets like this, it not only leaves you permanent scars, but also affects your confidence and your self-esteem. Everything is basically impacted by this. That's why I'm saying and I'm advocating for barbers to just up your hygiene, so no one has to go through something like this, and we can minimize the amount of people that start developing AKN from such a young age. So a little bit more of a long-winded video today, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe because I make more of this type of content. I've got so much more videos to share with you guys, so remember to click subscribe, turn on the notifications so you can see more videos from me. But that will be it for today, and take care. Bye.